we're going to read, today is Wednesday, we read from As Bill Sees It, and we're going to read on prayer, because Terry's going to talk a little bit about prayer in a while. So I thought maybe we would introduce this. And there it is right there. We're going to raise your hand if you want to read. Also, the other thing is I'm going to turn on your pictures, and I'm going to turn on your video. Where is the, hang on for 1 sec here. You can start your video too. Okay, so starting with page 20, and we'll start with Ron. Go ahead, Ron. You want to read?
I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. Like from a prayer, God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We treasure our serenity prayer because it brings us a new light to us that can dissipate our old time and nearly fatal habit of fooling ourselves. In the radiance of this prayer, we see that defeat, rightly accepted, need be no disaster. We now know that we do not have to run away, nor ought we again try to overcome adversity by still another bulldozing prayer drive that can only push up the obstacles before us faster than they can be taken down. And that's from the Grapevine of March 1962.
All right, thank you. Job. Okay, Joe, you're up. Page 33.
I'm sorry, what page are we? 33.
33.
Foundation for Life. We discovered that we receive guidance for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on order and on our own terms. In praying, we ask simply that throughout the day, God place in us the best understanding of his will that we can have for that day, and that we be given the grace by which we may carry it out. There is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit, but when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. From the 12 and 12.
Okay, go ahead, Lori. You can't hear you, Lori.
Sorry, Lori, alcoholic. This is on page 55, seeking guidance. Man is supposed to think and act. He wasn't made in God's image to be an automaton, sorry. My own formula along this line runs as follows. First, think through every situation, pro and con, praying meanwhile that I not be influenced by ego considerations. Affirm that I will do God's will. Then, having turned the problem over in this fashion and getting no conclusive or compelling answer, I wait for further guidance, which may come into the mind directly or through other people or through circumstances. If I feel I can't wait and still get no definite indication, I repeat the first measure several times, try to pick out the best course, and then proceed to act. I know if I'm wrong, the heavens won't fall. A lesson will be learned in any case. This is a letter from 1950.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Rebecca, you're next, the last one.
Hi, Rebecca, alcoholic. Free from Independence, page 63. I asked myself, why can't the 12-step work to release me from the unbearable depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It is better to comfort than to be comforted. Suddenly, I realized what the answer might be. My basic flaw had always been dependence on people or circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and confidence. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I fought for them, and when defeat came, so did my depression. Reinforced by what grace I could find in prayer, I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people and upon circumstances. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had loved. Grapevine, January 1958.
Okay, thank you for reading. Hey, everybody, welcome to Newcomers Slippers Step Workshop. Happy New Year. So I thought earlier today, starting the New Year's off, Terry has come to this meeting for a long time. I've known him for a long time. And so I know that he did this thing on centering prayer. A couple of weeks ago, Terry was here and we did, he helped everybody with a bunch on meditation, which was extremely helpful. We recorded it. It's over there on our YouTube podcast. So, Terry, I'm just gonna, if you could turn your camera on, I'm just gonna turn it over to you and you know, have you share about this whole issue of prayer. Are you still there? There you are. Sorry.
I'm here.
There you are.
Let's see. I have to. All right, there I am.
There
Okay.
you are. Okay, good.
Well, happy New Year to each and every one of you. My name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic, and here in downtown San Francisco. And it is a Happy New Year because people who drank like me should be dead. And if they continue to drink like I was drinking, they are dead. So when I say Happy New Year, I really mean one day at a time. And I think we see that in our program. But I want to talk about prayer. Now, the prayers I knew were the prayers when I was drinking. I knew prayers from when I was a kid. I learned in school. You may learn them in Sunday school. Some memorized prayers, maybe. Those are the best you got. They're fine. They're good. They're memorized, so you can use them. But the prayers I use as I get older were what AA calls the foxhole prayers. That means God's help me out of this mess and I'll be good. Because that was a lie on our part. We had no willpower to be good. That is to stop drinking. That's because we're alcoholics and left to our own devices. As you've learned from Jann, from reading, is we cannot stop left to our own devices. So saying, God, help me out of this mess and I will stop drinking all by myself. Never worked. So when I get into this program and they begin to speak about step 11, and well, didn't begin to speak about step 11. I first had to admit I was an alcoholic and then do the work of finding out my side of the mess of my life, which was most of the mess. Well, then they got up to step 11, and I think it's in a wonderful place because you really have to do a lot of work to get to where you'll even begin to think about prayer and meditation. And so I look at meditation as and prayer as doing it the way that fits you. Now, by step 11, you probably have had a sponsor. So when I say the way that fits you, I don't mean that, for instance, myself, I would singularly, all by myself, decide what fits me. Because as I said, my willpower is broken, left to my own devices. So what I needed to do was to say, this is what I think works for me and get a second opinion, if not a third opinion. Because sometimes, a lot of times, what would happen as an AA by going to meetings and meeting people is I would find out I didn't see the whole picture. And other people had maybe tried what I did and this or that didn't work. So they don't, a good sponsor and a good AA companion simply might suggest I look at something or say what worked for them. So mine is only a suggestion as well as what works for me. So I think it's a good idea to be comfortable when you begin. So if someone says, well, you should sit down and say the same word over and over for a half hour, unless that feels comfortable, I wouldn't do it. Or if someone comes along and says, you know what, you ought to be a Zen Buddhist. And that doesn't make any sense. What these people are saying when they say you oughta, or you should, or you must, is this is what worked for them. But we're not proselytizing. We're trying to keep each other sober. That's the important thing. Don't drink. So meditation that doesn't really work is not very helpful, because it's all about a relationship between you and your higher power. Well, how am I going to have a relationship if I'm uncomfortable? We know that from when we were drinking, and we drank to get comfortable, and then we couldn't have a relationship anyway because we were jerks. And now we're sober and we don't really know much about how to make a relationship, but we certainly know if we're not comfortable, it's not going to work. So here's some suggestions is to find a place that is quiet for you. For instance, one person could go into a shopping mall, let's say, and they would say, oh, too busy, too loud, too noisy. You go into the shopping mall and you sit on a bench someplace in there, maybe in the food court, let's say, and you feel very comfortable and very quiet and very safe. Well, then that could be a place where you might meditate. Doesn't mean you always have to go to the food court, but if you happen to be there, in other words, try various things to see what works. So find a comfortable place that's not noisy. And I say not noisy because sound gets into our heads and gets us thinking. A horn, a conversation, a leaky faucet, all gets our mind going. And meditation is about, I think, not paying a lot of attention to what's going on in your head. When we drank, we paid a lot of attention to our feelings and to what's going on in our head, and we want both of them to change. Meditation, we just don't pay attention to them. Well, how the heck am I supposed to do that? Well, there's ways. Okay, here's one way, and it's referred to in some circles as centering prayer. And what it says is, it's just one particular way you might do. Sit down in a comfortable place. Why do I want it to be comfortable? Because it was suggested to me, and it worked out for me, I suggested for you, is if you're comfortable, you're not thinking about your body. So if you have a sore hip, try to find a position in which your hip is not so sore, so then you won't be thinking about it. If it means you lie down, okay. Somebody said, well, I lay down and I fell asleep. Well, you needed a nap, okay? You might do it another time. You don't need a nap, but it's the perfect position for you. Any case, you find a comfortable place that's quiet for you. And then I suggest that you close your eyes. I suggest this because then you won't be looking around. So there won't be visuals that'll get in your mind and get you focused on your mind. Because if you're focused on your mind, it's really about you and you. And you've had that relationship long enough. Now we're trying to get a relationship with this higher power that got you all the way to step 11. And so who is this higher power? Who cares? You don't have to know who it is, just that it is, and that it has been relating to you and would like now for you to deepen the relationship by, for a moment, not paying attention to yourself. Now, you did that a little when you decided to make amends. You did think about the other person, and you made sure you didn't make an amends that would hurt somebody. So you were beginning to think about other people. So now you're going to try not to think about yourself, and not even to think about a higher power, since you don't know what that is anyway. It just is. It's an energy. It's not a thing someplace hidden away. It's an energy, but think of it as a shy energy that's just sort of waiting for you to pay attention, if you will. So I suggest you close your eyes and then just notice your breathing. Why? Because you are breathing. So it's not doing anything else. And just notice your breathing, that you're breathing. And then just sit there. Am I supposed to come off with a good thought? Not necessarily. I would just sit there and maybe sit there for 5 minutes. Somebody would say, oh, you need a half hour. Well, think if somebody says, you're going to run a marathon, do you run 26 miles, 285 yards the first day out? No, I don't think so. So why don't you just do a few minutes? I suggest 5. See how it feels. If at the end of 5 minutes you said, wow, well, how am I going to know it's 5 minutes? I would set some sort of an alarm. If you have an iWatch or a Fitbit, you can just set it to buzz. The best thing is something that doesn't buzz on and on and on. It's such an alarm clock. But anyway, set some timer for 5 minutes so you don't have to pay attention to it. And then just sit there quietly. And if you find yourself beginning to think about doing the dishes or what you're going to eat later, or some task that you might have to do at work, or some friend that needs attention, notice your breathing. Why? Because you're already breathing. It doesn't take much thinking to notice your breathing, and it takes you away from that thought. What you want to have is all those thoughts to just become background, like a train horn, a whistle that you get used to if you live near train tracks. You get used to it. There's probably a lot of sounds that you hear that you get used to. So you just notice your breathing so that all these other thoughts become background. You know they're there, but you don't pay attention. You're not focused on them. And then you just sit there for 5 minutes. What'll happen? How do I know? It's not, nor do you need to know. It's a relationship. Let the other side do what it's going to do. Maybe you'll have a peaceful time. Maybe you'll be bored to death. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep showing up. Remember what they said about meetings? Go to meetings. It didn't say go to meetings that you liked. It didn't say go to meetings that made you feel better. It said go to meetings. You're not drinking. You're at step 11. You've been sober for any number of days that you never could do alone. Probably going to meetings has proven to be a pretty good idea. So call your meditation a meeting, and you're going to do it every day. And if at some point that 5 minutes begins, you kind of get the hang of it, then I'd lengthen it, not to 20, 7 or 8, just build up gradually. And you may change your chair because you found one wasn't comfortable enough, but don't blame the chair because your mind is crazy. Remember, we've got crazy minds anyway. And this is just one way to do it. Some people need what I call a segue. They need something to lead them into it. Again, find a comfortable place, sit down, take out maybe the big book, and begin to read. How much? Until you find yourself just wanting to stop at a sentence, the middle of a sentence. And then that just grabs you. Put the book down and begin to reflect on that one sentence or whatever you got. Just put the book down. In meditation, you're not trying to read the big book. You're using it as an entry point into a quiet, more still inner self, if you will. And so that's referred to as Lexio, or reading into meditation. And you don't have to use the big book. You could use any one of the 7 books that Jann brought up. Came to Believe is one, because they're all about coming to believe in a higher power, how that happened. There's all kinds of books that they have. I've just suggested the big book because that's what most of you have, or the 12 and 12. Sometimes I'll take it and I'll just read one of the stories in the back, not to finish the story. You're not trying to read a chapter. It's not so you can tap yourself on the back later. Say, I read that whole story. No, you just read till you feel like, oh, that sentence grabs me. Put the book down and just think about that sentence, just that sentence. So that's meditation that gets into one small area, that sentence. And then beyond that, you may find yourself thinking about that sentence and this finding a kind of an inclination or a nudge or a push to just be still and quiet. That's the higher power at work, I suggest. So that would be another way. Some people can do it going out for a walk. It's not exercise, if you will. This is not a power walk. You're not using your iWatch, your Fitbit to see the pace you can go. So I would suggest not going to a busy place, but to a more nature scene, flowers, trees, and just walk along at ease, get at ease, and just look around. And when something kind of grabs you to just look at it, then just stop and look at it. And maybe that will bring you into kind of a sense of quiet inside. And you might find yourself then, if you don't live in some terribly cold place with high winds, just wanting to sit and be with it. Or you might get a sort of sense of being quietly within yourself. And now you continue your walk with that. So that's called maybe a walking meditation. And some people have made the same walk, they've walked in a big circle, and that has worked for them. What you're looking for is a method to help you stop paying attention to your busy mind, so that you can pay attention to your insides, which are very shy, but very alive, and are just waiting for you to stop trying to live on the outside and let yourself live on the inside. So overall, I would say start small, do what makes sense, and then build on that, because that's what you'll have to share with others, what worked for you. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Terry. I have a couple questions for you. So what does the term centering? You just described centering prayer. Is that it? Is that what the term means?
The first one, yes.
Okay.
Well, because you're trying to be, it means being centered within yourself, as opposed to spread out all over the place. Think of yourself as being in a party where you're drinking. What are you centered on? You're so scattered. That's why you're drinking. I mean, if you could have been still and quiet and comfortable inside yourself, you wouldn't have been doing all that drinking probably until you became an alcoholic, then you can't stop. But so you're trying to become centered on just being yourself on the inside. You're not thinking about how do I look? What do people think? And you're not letting any thoughts run into, I'm the loneliest person in the world. I'm a loser. You don't pay attention to that stuff. Remember the second step. We want sanity, which assumes we're insane. Okay. Left to our own devices, we don't go in a good direction. So that's why you don't want to pay attention to the mind. You want to become centered on your insides and think of your crazy thoughts as being all on the outsides, on the periphery of the circle, if you will. And you want to get to the center of the circle, which I would suggest is the energy, the power of the higher power is within.
We have Father Terry with us today, 39 years sober. He's talking about centering prayer. I have another question. So sometimes, like, I will pray directly to God or Jesus, as it were, and I'll have a list of things, people that I want to pray for, or issues inside myself. Like, let's say it's my character or my behavior, and then I'll ask for help there. I feel like I get a direct response from him. I feel like I have, like direct contact.
Yeah, that's called prayer.
Yeah.
Step 11 is prayer and meditation. Yeah, it's not that prayer is sort of second to meditation, like first comes prayer and then really the good stuff. No, it's prayer and meditation. What meditation does is it's a practice of getting deeper and a practice of not paying attention to your mind, which often goes in crazy directions. That's what it is. And so you practice that. And why would that help? Because later in the day, you will be going through a situation. And this is how I think meditation works. You say, okay, I sat for 10 minutes. And it was okay. I don't know. What? And now you go into the day and a situation arises that has arisen before. And it always gets the same reaction out of you, resentment. The situation arises and suddenly you see the resentment coming up and you catch it. You catch it before it grabs hold of you. And you breathe a sigh of relief and you let go of that and you enter into acceptance. Where did that come from? That came from the meditation. I've been told this over and over again. It's not what happens in the meditation, it's that you did it. The results will always come later. Sometimes you will have a great mystical experience, for an hour or for 20 minutes or for 10 minutes or for 5 minutes. Wow. And you'll try to capture that again. But that's like capturing that drink. That just happened to be the way it is. And maybe it's the higher power just letting you know, okay, Terry, I'll just let you know this is working. A lot of times you'll feel bored, you'll feel distracted, you'll think it's a waste of time, but you did it. And that afternoon, an event comes up and you act totally different towards that same thing that angered you before, and it doesn't anger you now. That's the result of prayer and meditation.
I have also tried what you mentioned, where about 5 years ago, I decided to do the rosary, and which I'd never really done before, and I did it at the church. And I did find like a profound peace and connection. And then years ago, I did the NSA Buddhism, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That was another form, and it was also gave me some kind of release and insight, similar to the rosaries.
Mantras, they're mantras. That's another way. I didn't bring that one up. A mantra type thing. Now, here's how I have found that works. The rosary are the same. Om Mani Padme Om. I think it's a Hindu mantra. You say the same thing over and over. Now you're going to say sit for a certain length of time. You don't have to say that Om Mani Padme Om or whatever your phrase is over and over. You just say it till you feel a kind of instinct to be still and quiet. And the same with the rosary. People say, I got to finish my rosary. I say, why? You don't have to finish your rosary. You start the rosary. I might get to the third Hail Mary and the second mystery of the sorrowful mysteries. And all of a sudden, I just feel a desire to stop and be still. It's the same thing. Most of us Americans, or we're brought up in the Western European tradition. It doesn't work unless you finish. That's not prayer and meditation. It works because you become a better person, not that you finished something.
Okay, any questions? So go ahead. Anybody have questions for Father Terry on this topic? And then you can unmute. Just raise your hand or go ahead and yep, go ahead, Shane. You can unmute there, I think.
Yeah, Shane, alcoholic addict. Yeah, I've been put a couple 24 hours together, and what works for me is like, it's salt through in step 11. I got to be seeking, so I'm open-minded about everything you're saying, and just for me, the way I meditate, I take a 5-minute, sometimes 10-minute meditation, and I can clear my mind. But I know I remember early in recovery, it was like, geez, I got a pure itty bitty committee up there going nuts, so it's like, that's what, one step at a time, but like salt through prayer and meditation. I got to always be seeking, and that's okay for me, because when when I pray, I'm talking to God. And when I'm meditating, I'm trying to listen to what he's trying to tell me. And it doesn't come like, hey, you do this, you do that. It's a feeling. And I can't explain that. And it's a personal thing. It's a personal thing, for me. And I come around the rooms a little bit, and everybody handles it a little differently. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't want somebody to beat themselves up thinking, you know what I mean? Whatever, whatever works, right? We seek and seek some more. So whatever keeps you sober for 24 hours is, whatever you're doing there is beautiful. So thank you for your service there, Father. Really appreciate that.
Well, Shane brought up a very good point. Listening. how do you listen to another person? I've seen this in myself, and especially when I was not in recovery, they'd start talking, and I was already thinking about something else, either thinking about my answer, thinking about something about them, and only half listening. My mind was filled with other stuff, my emotions, my thoughts, my past history, when this person started talking. And sometimes it's right away, I know I'm going to disagree. I can't wait to talk and tell them what I think. That's not listening. And Shane brought up a good point. You've got to not be paying attention to your mind. Now, he said he tries to empty his mind. I just try not to pay attention to it. If I can ignore the craziness of my mind, remember, step 2, we're praying for sanity, which means if we're praying for it, we ain't. So I'm trying not to think about what this person looks like, or whether I want to be with them or don't be with them, whether they have more money than me, less money than me, or any of those kinds of things. I'm just trying to listen to what they're saying. So I need to learn and not pay attention to what's going through my mind. And meditation has helped me to not pay attention to what's going through my mind. So when they're talking, I suddenly realize I'm not paying attention. And I've learned to just let that go and start listening to them. And then at the end, or whatever their end is, if I have a response, I make it. But also, I don't have to be brilliant. And maybe I don't have to make a response. I can just say, thank you very much. That was very interesting. I might have learned something there. I mean, you don't have to be, you're not going to marry them. They just have to be somebody that's talking to you.
Questions or comments for Father Terry? We could go around the room and I could call on all you guys. Okay, Jeff, how about you?
Jeff, alcoholic, South Florida. I am just so amazed. Father Terry hit on so much. It gave me a whole new way to do it, and much better than the way that I'm going. And he admitted what I have to admit to these crazy thoughts that I have, or that my mind gets cluttered, any number of things. And one thing that's very important too, maybe just face something. My first acid trip, I dropped acid. I abused acid terribly. A lot of it in San Francisco. But the first time I had a real heavy acid trip, I don't know how many milligrams, I wondered whether I was going to stop breathing. I suppose I forget to breathe. Well, I know when he talked about breathing that I'm never going to forget to breathe. That's how power greater than me is going to do that. So I just took that and folded that into everything else that he was saying. And wow. Yeah, I've got a whole new outlook. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Lori.
Hi, Lori, alcoholic. I've been trying to meditate, although I've got to say I haven't been consistent about it. But using the breathing technique, paying attention to my breathing, and that helps me to relax. But I need a lot of practice because I have never meditated before. But I'm gonna I just wrote myself a note. So where I have my coffee in the morning, I've got a note reminding me to meditate. Anyway, thanks very much, Father Terry. That was great and helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay, how about you, Rob?
I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. So any time of the day is fine, is that correct? I mean, is it better to start your day with that, or is it better to end your day, or is it just any time of the day?
I think you find your better times. I'm a morning person. If I try to meditate at somewhere between 1:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I will fall asleep. And I go to bed rather early in the evening. So I find early morning works for me since I go to bed early. And then something around 3:30, 4 o'clock as a second one works for me. And I've just found that with trial and error. If you're a night person or an evening person, maybe the mornings are not for you. So try different times. If you fall asleep, that probably means you needed a nap. And you find times when you don't fall asleep, and those are your better times.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Wow. Father Terry, thank you so much. I didn't even want to think about what I was going to say, just listening. As you said, I didn't want to think about what I was going to say. So I'm kind of gathering my thoughts, but the term like meditation, you know, these things like the big book, meditation, they were scary, and they don't have to be scary. And that's what I'm realizing is it's not this big umbrella. I meditate, or I have been meditating, but I try not to put the phrase I'm meditating, and it has worked, and I'll continue to do it. And yeah, it is meditating. And I could also improve on that as well. Yeah, it's worked for me. Thank you so much, Father Terry. I have
You're
more
welcome.
to say, but I just need to settle. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey there, Jan. Thank you. Sam, very grateful alcoholic. For me, meditation has always been bit of a turmoil, if you will. It's very hard for me to center myself. I used to kind of like laugh inward at the idea that I could center myself, that I could focus, I could get out of my own head, out of my own space. But then I came to the realization that it is necessary, not just for higher power, but for my own serenity. Too many times I get caught in the moment. Too many times I get caught with anxiety, stressors, normal life issues. But once I hit that point where I actually could breathe, where I could actually just release it all, I came to the realization that it is out of my control, and that's fine. That's okay. I don't have to have control of every situation. It's messing with my mental health. It's making things harder. The longer I grasp, the harder I grasp, the more I lose control. So breathing, centering myself, it just gives me that peace of mind and ability to move forward with my life and just let go. And again, thank you, Father Terry. I really look forward to every time you come in here and speak. As I tell Jan all the time.
Yeah, it's like having a free confession, except we don't have to confess anything. Okay, that wasn't funny. Let's see, who else? What do we got here? We got a lot of people here. Anybody? So Joe, how about you? Do you have any questions or comments for Terry?
I don't have any questions per se. I'm actually just getting used to the idea of it, I guess. I really liked all the advice. I'm still trying to get used to being in my own head without alcohol and everything compounding. And I'm getting better at sitting still or keeping my mind still, but it's still very new for me.
One thing, and I think someone did this for me at some point. I'm not sure, or I heard about it. Anyway, someplace I have a stone, a very small rock, fits easily into the palm of my hand. And sit with that small stone in my hand and focus on the stone. Because if I'm focusing on the stone, which doesn't make me, I don't know where it came from, doesn't make me think of a park, but I stopped thinking about a lot of other things. And if I can focus on one thing, then maybe I can go through that to be taken into that deeper place. It's a little bit like, I don't know. It might be a little bit like looking at a painting, if you can do that. And you just look at the painting. And if it's a great piece of art, let's say, or great for you, you're taken into it after a while if you just keep looking at it. And you sort of stop focusing on the painting and you're just sitting there with yourself. I haven't tried long enough, but the stone I think is a good idea because I just think about the stone. I don't think about a lot of other things, and I don't have many thoughts about the stone. I just think stone. And then
I have a stone. This is just making me think. I have a stone that would actually work really well. Sometimes I can do it when my cat comes over because she automatically calms me. But along with what you were saying about the stone, actually touching something grounds me.
yeah, that's it.
Oh, sorry. How about name and you? Thanks, Terry, and you too, Joe.
Naaman, grateful to be a recovering alcoholic. Thank you very much, Father Terry, for the plain language and a few different perspectives on how to do it and how to approach it. And I just thank you.
All right, good, thanks. How about you, Stacy?
Hi, Stacy, alcoholic. Yeah, Father Terry, that's some good insight on meditation. I've been practicing meditation for years, so it's actually quite easy for me to get into it. But I remember first starting and not being able to shut my mind off. But now I can sit for a good 20 minutes and just fully appreciate the situation and not think about things and let all that background noise be background noise. So yeah, thanks for sharing and thank you for letting me share.
All right, perfect. Here, how about Joe in Colorado? Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Good. Joe, I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for sharing, Father Terry. The meditation thing and the shutting the brain off, it just takes a lot of practice, and but it's so crucial to my mental health that I do it a lot. I do it in the morning, I do it at night. It's the first thing I do in the morning, it's the last thing I do at night. And when I get stressed during the day, I rely on that. I'll go sit somewhere. Everything else gets put on the back burner, and I'll just sit 5-10 minutes and meditate and pray. But thank you for sharing, Father.
You know what happens to me is I'm like, my mind goes, I don't have time for this. Like, what else do I have? So I think that seems to be why if I do the rosary or something else, a mantra, it leads me better into meditation. If I have to sit still and decide, oh, I'm going to meditate now, I'm just like, I'd rather throw myself off the second story. Who else? Hey, who did I not get to here, Sam? Did I talk to Alex in the United Kingdom? We did talk to him, right? No, yeah.
No, I don't believe so.
How about you, Alex? Any questions or comments?
Hi. Yeah, thanks for the share, Father Terry. Right, so yeah, I used to train to medicate myself, literally. And in the beginning it was okay. I used to do the job, but in the end, in the last 4 years, it just progressed in a very fast way, and it's just realized that by going into the A meetings that I'm being classified as an alcoholic, and yeah, I remember the last time when I relapsed 3 months ago. Yeah, I had like my head was like a washing machine. I couldn't think straight, and I had like very anxious, and that's how I relapsed. But yeah, I just think that meditation thought is really what I need to kind of concentrate and get it right. Of but it's just so hard to concentrate and on anything at this stage. At the moment, I'm just taking some. I've been prescribed some medicine from the doctor called mirtazapine, which helps me to kind of calm down and helps with the anxiety and depression. But yeah, it's just really hard.
Okay, listen, thank you, Alex, for being here and sharing. Anybody else? Comments? Questions for Terry? One of the things we do is we also support Terry's work. So I put up his Venmo and you can make contributions there. It's Terry-Ryan25. It's in chat. And then Sam, would you put up a link to his Facebook and everything? Do you have that there? Let's do that now. What else? Okay, who else did we miss here? Scott, you're on day 1. Linda in Houston, 2 days. Samantha, 4 days. Jeff, we could talk to you. Alex, we talked to you. Anybody else here? Wow. So we'll do that and then we'll read the promises. But thanks, Terry, for coming today and sharing this. It's always really good. We'll record this and then we put it up on our YouTube. If you would put a link to our YouTube up also. So there's Terry's link to his Facebook, and he also has a YouTube channel, and you can also find his daily blog there. So that's good. I think Joe, you go to his blog all the time, don't you? I don't know who else in here does.
I see it when it comes up on my feed, and I always enjoy it.
Yeah.
A lot of good information on there.
Terry, did you have big doings last night in San Francisco, or did you go to bed early?
I don't know. I went to bed at 8 o'clock. Never heard it. Never heard the 12 o'clock fireworks over the Bay Bridge. Thank God.
All right. If you want to read the promises there, Sam, over to you.
Thanks, Jan. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Thank you for letting me.
Okay. Thank you. And Terry, I'll just ask you, would you care to lead us in the Serenity Prayer to close the meeting out?
Sure. Well, a moment of silence for those who are still suffering on this first day of the new year, that they will find the rooms. And the we version. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back.
Yep, this meeting is officially over. And if anybody has any questions about the meeting or AA, you can ask now. So thanks, Terry. I think it's a month and a half before spring training. It's very